Here we go. 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Bum, ba-dum, bum, bum. Wait for everyone to gather. It's a cold night in the north. In Canada, it's cold. What was it? 20s, teens today, 30s. I think it was 30 today.
Okay.
Hi, Nora. Nice to see you. A little heart. Heart back to you too. Oh, and Lynn, hi. Nice to see you. Greetings from South Florida. Yay, South Florida. We love it. Love South Florida. Can't wait to get back. I mean, I love both places. I like the north too. Hi, Deborah. Two Debbie, a Debbie and a Deborah. Joanne. Hi, Nathalie. Nathalie's part of our team. I call her Nathalie because we got a kick out of it one time. My husband pronounced the TH because she has an H in her name, and it's never. I can't say her name anymore unless I say it with a TH sound. Hi, Shannon. Hello, everyone. Nice to see everyone joining. All righty. Tonight we're going to talk about poisons. Those terrible things on our earth. Those terrible, terrible poisons. I love poisons. Why do we love poisons, everyone? Because they make the best medicines. They are the best. That's what homeopathy is so great about. It gets the most toxic stuff and makes it into the most incredible healing agent, the most fabulous medicine. In fact, a lot of times, the more toxic it is and more toxic the disease is, they match, so to speak, and it brings it down. I don't know, that's the way I see it. It's almost as though the more toxic, that belladonna is so toxic that it can bring down a really, really high fever if we need to. I'm not crazy about bringing down fevers in children and babies. I think they should mount a nice fever and cook off the disease. But if we had to, we could use that belladonna, that toxic belladonna that dilates the pupils and makes the face all red and makes such heat when you eat the belladonna berry. And that's exactly what we're looking at in someone who needs belladonna, but homeopathically prepared, of course. And you know, I'm going to remind you folks, it's not just about dilution. You know that, right? It's diluted. Let's say belladonna 30C is diluted 30 times to the 100th power. C stands for 100. But it's the succussion in between too. If we don't have that succussion, we don't have a good medicine. So you need to do both. It is the whole potentization process. So tonight we're going to talk about a poison ivy. And the reason I'm doing this is because it's already turning into kind of getting to poison ivy season in some parts of the country. Florida has poison. What do you have? What do we have down there? Sumac. California, West Coast has poison oak. Poison ivy, except the places we don't see these kinds of things are in the desert areas. In my neck of the woods, in fact, we're in Canada, we've got poison ivy in our front area of our property near the lake. So that stuff is pretty ubiquitous, and it's not ready to come out now in where I am, but it is in many other parts of the country. Kentucky and Louisiana, certainly, and Carolinas and Alabama, Southern California. So I want to get this information to you before you start worrying. I don't want you to start worrying because for those who have a propensity for getting poison ivy, I knew someone years ago who, if she walked past poison ivy, it was on the side of the road, and if she walked past it, she would get sick. She would break out. And she didn't realize it until she learned what was going on the side of the road. She was that sensitive. Some people can be like that. So tonight I'm going to talk about poison ivy and what we can do about it. And I'm going to really stick my neck out tonight. I'm going to give you something that I don't often do. At least not in public. I usually teach these in my courses because I feel a little more comfortable that I know your names. I know you know who I am. You know where I live. You know what I do. You know all about me. But I don't know you. But when I give courses, I get to know people a little bit better, at least, especially the study groups. I have a little feel for it. But tonight I'm going to stick my neck out. And I'm going to tell you about a protocol that I learned about many years ago. And I'm not going to swear by it because I have used it a number of times and it does seem to work. But I'm always a little leery about giving this kind of information up, but I'm going to do it anyway. Because I want you to know that I am going to back off and say I'm not treating you as a practitioner. I'm giving you educational information, and it may just be quite useful for you. So many practitioners, including myself, have used poison ivy, Rhus toxicodendron, or Rhus tox for short, in a 1M before the season begins. For someone, not just for anyone, just in case maybe we'll get poison ivy. No, no, no. This is for someone who is super sensitive to poison ivy. You give them Rhus tox 1M is the way I learned it. 1 dose once a week for a month. Rhus tox, R-H-U-S, tox, T-O-X, 1M. High potency. Now, I'm not really afraid of high potencies, because these are our medicines. But I want to tell you that homeopathy is relatively safe if you use it properly. And it is someone who is super sensitive to poison ivy. I have found that it has acted. I am not going to guarantee that, but I thought I'd tell you about it. And then after that point, one stops. That's as far as we go. Once a week, every Sunday for 4 Sundays in a row. Rhus tox 1M. And it helps protect. Now, we talked a little bit about this last week. This is not really homeopathy I'm discussing. I'm really talking about isopathy, remember? And so with isopathy, we use the exact substance that causes the disease for the disease. So let's put that aside because I'm going to give you a couple of things tonight that I think are pretty interesting. And I also want you to know that we've got a toxic course coming up. It's called Detox, or Rethinking Detox with Practical Homeopathy. I have to read the rest of it because the second of the title is pretty long. How to Stop Stressing and Fearlessly Achieve Health the Simple Way, obviously using homeopathy. So it's about rethinking detox, and you can look into this course if you'd like. It's called Detox, or you can go to Detox, detox.joettecalabrese.com should you be interested. And we're going to be starting that course up soon. So you might want to get in early because when you get in early, you submit a case, then we often have your case that's included with others. So I wanted to get that out of the way, get some business out of the way. And then I wanted to show you this book that I bought in I was in the 90s, late 90s. I think it was printed in 97. So yeah, I probably got it about 99 or so. And it's a book by Homeopathic Handbook for Poison Ivy and Poison Oak. It's by Joel Kreisberg. And I just found it on Amazon. I've had it a long time, but I thought I'd check to see whether or not I could tell you that it was on Amazon. It is indeed on Amazon. And it's an interesting book because what it does is it shows us that for poison ivy, he has an entire layout here, and it shows you parts of the body where when poison ivy presents in that part of the body, that's how you know which homeopathic medicine to use. Kind of interesting, because I'll bet you thought what I used to think, and that is that you get poison ivy where the poison ivy touches, and indeed that's how it makes contact and gets into the system, but then it gets into the system. And then it can get, you can see, let's see if I can do this backwards. You see these circles here? That's one remedy here. There's another remedy, oops, this way. So this one it's only on the left side, and that is Croton tiglium. And then the one that I just showed you that really is, I got to do this oppositely, so it's a mirror image. That's Graphites. Oh, no, yeah, that's Graphites. And then we look at the sulfur. And we can use Rhus tox for poison ivy, but it's not the one that we most frequently use. So he's got it laid out. You can see how this is done in body parts, and that's a whole chart. Kind of interesting. So if you've got a lot of poison ivy, poison oak in your life, and you have very sensitive members of your family, you just might want to own this book. It's one more bit of information that can be useful. So I'll put it up there one more time. Homeopathic Handbook for Poison Ivy and Poison Oak by Joel, Joel Kreisberg, Kreisberg. Joel Kreisberg. So my favorite medicine, though, for poison ivy, across the board, in fact, I've not used very many others other than this medicine, is anacardium. And since we're doing our materia medica and we're still in the A's, I thought, well, let's go after anacardium. Let's use it. And what I wrote in it, if you have my book, it says it's a keynote. The keynote is an antidote to poison oak, but it's also good for poison ivy. So it's a common remedy for rashes, I'm just going to read quickly, caused by poison ivy or poison oak. And anacardium is spelled A-N-A-C-A-R-D-I-U-M. Accidentally is the second word. It's cashew nut. In itself, it is not necessarily poisonous, but it sure works beautifully for poisons, such as oak and ivy. Okay. It's indicated when the skin is intensely itchy, but is made worse from scratching. It is often used in 6, 30th, and 200 potency, 2 to 3 times daily when the itching is severe. The scratching will bring soreness, inflammation, redness, and burning sensation of the skin. Now, what's interesting is that most folks think poison ivy, hence this medicine. And that is so for this, or poison oak, either one. This is a pretty good description of exactly what happens. And if it doesn't fit exactly as I'm describing, it doesn't mean you still can't use it. I start with this one. It's just, I've just found it to be very, very useful time and again. You want me to show you?
Other one.
Oh, you want me to give that to you? Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. And it's, but let's say anacardium doesn't act. Let's say you've done everything you can do. This person is super sensitive to poison ivy. I mean, they get very sick from it. They get it every single year. They have to wear socks and jackets and clothing, and anytime they go into the woods when no one else needs to do so. And you've given the roost tox. And by the way, when we use that roost tox once a week for 4 weeks, I encourage folks to do it every year, because the season comes up again and you have to kind of, and each year it gets a little less, a little less, a little less. So by year 3 or 4, we're in a better stead, but we're moving towards that. So let's say you did that. It's the first year. And they get poison ivy in spite of that, which is certainly possible. Nothing is 100%. And they get that, but it's not as bad as it has always been. And they can stay away from the drugs, which is what we want them to do. We don't want them on steroids, if at all possible. And then you go to, you might go directly to anacardium. You're not going to use roost tox again just because you used it as a prophylactic. You're going to use anacardium most likely. Now use anacardium, and let's say it helps a little bit. It gets it down, brings it down from a screaming 7 on a scale of 1 to 10. And it brings it down to, say, a 4. But then they get stuck. May I have the book back again? Oh, you closed it. Oh, gee, thanks. I need to find my place again. Let's say that it only brings it down to, about a 4. And then you notice that we're stalled. Now it's week 2 and the person's still suffering. It's not as bad, but they're still suffering. Now you want to look for another remedy. And what you're going to do is look for closer circumstances. So for example, graphites, Graphites, or graphite with an S at the end, graphites, is great when there is yellow oozing and kind of a yellow, there's a word for it. I'm trying to think of what it is. Anyone know what that word is? They often say it's yellow, kind of crystallized. That's what happens. Once the secretion is removed or is released and you leave it alone, it dries, it turns kind of a crystally yellow. That's graphites. There's also sulfur is another great medicine for poison ivy. And that is if there is itching that is absolutely out of their mind when they get near water. And I don't mean like walking near it. I mean when they wash their hands, they wash their face, they take a shower. It's maddeningly worse. I'm kind of simplifying this. I'm making it super easy. And then we could use Rhus tox, but Rhus tox has a really interesting, when we use it for poison ivy or eczema or whatever it might be, it is very easy to recognize because Rhus tox is great for when near scalding water applied to the area is what relieves it somewhat. It doesn't make it go away completely, but it calms it down. So they want to get into the shower. They want to put their hands, if it's on their hands or wherever it might be, directly under near scalding water and just let it run on it. And it just calms it down. And the hotter the water, of course, you have to be careful. This can be dangerous. But the hotter the water, the more comforting the itch is. And so that is a use for an indication for the use of Rhus tox for poison ivy. So now let's say that we have a case of poison ivy, and that's all they can do. And all they want to do is put those hands, those arms, whatever they can do, put the neck under near scalding water because they're losing their mind. That would trump the choice of going with anacardium. That's the way I would see it. When we see an indication for symptoms that are screaming at us, then we weigh more heavily on the symptoms, even though we know that's a protocol, that anacardium. These are not Banerjee protocols, at least not that I'm aware of. This is what I've learned through the years because I've had to deal with poison ivy so many times. So if you have to weigh it, there's a pretty good amount of weight towards anacardium because it is one of the most commonly used and it affects the greatest number of people. But on the other hand, if instead the hot scalding water is what this person craves constantly and it really makes a measurable difference, then I might go for using isopathy and using Rhus tox. Now the question is, what potency? So the potency that I like to use, we already told you about the 1M. The potency I like to use, generally speaking, for skin conditions is I like to stay around a 30 or a 200. Doesn't mean you can't use a 3 or a 6. Doesn't mean you can't use a 1M. But I find that's the easiest to teach, the easiest to purchase, to find, to have on hand, because if you've got a kit, and if you don't, you should. It's most likely you've got it on hand in your kit. And it's also seems to be the most commonly found to work best. So, and how often would you use it? Just like I said in my Materia Medica, I said for anacardium, we use it in a 6th, 30th, or 200th potency, 2 to 3 times a day. Now, I'm being super conservative here in this book. I do that a lot because I don't know who I'm speaking to. And I'm going to step outside on a limb again, and I'm going to tell you that I have also used this medicine every 15 minutes, especially in the beginning, because the person is going out of their minds. So every 15 minutes for, say, the first 4 doses, I've used that method. And then after that, as they calm down a little bit, then we open it up to every hour. Still doing all right? Make it every 3 hours. Still doing all right? Let's try 6 hours. And then we're looking for that tipping point. At what point can we say that that amount of space between each dose is just right? Well, as soon as we administer it and find out. And we're testing. We're always checking. We're always observing. We're not asking too many questions. We're mostly observing. And my goodness, it certainly is easier to treat other people, isn't it? I'm looking to see if we have any questions here. I would love to be able to answer your questions. I haven't done that so much recently, and I'd like to be able to do that. Yep, there we go. We've got that Rhus tox 1M once a week for a month. That means 1 dose. Now, I'm going to say those of you who are, I don't see it. Is that a question? Okay. For those of you who know anything of homeopathy, you know not to ask how many pills, right? Right? Because the number of pills, you bet, that's right, thank you, little blue hand. I want you to know, because I say this all the time in my blog, when you look at the bottle, it tells you exactly how many pills are indicated that equal 1 dose. So if you buy boron, they may say 3 to 5 pills. If you buy from OHM, they say, I think they say 4 pills. Each company makes them slightly different. They're a little larger, they're a little smaller. So they tell you what a dose is. So a dose is equal to the number of pills that are printed on the outside of the bottle. That's the best way to remember that. Forevermore. Now, if you take 500 of those pills, if your child got into it and opened it up and ate 1 bottle and then opened the next bottle of the same stuff, or a different one for that matter, and put it in their mouth and ate that up and kept doing it for the day, well, what would happen? Not much of anything. Still 1 dose, because it's one right after another, and it's just like striking a match and lighting a flame, and you've just lit it. It's not striking a match, lighting a flame, putting it aside, and then 2 days later striking a match and lighting a flame. That is a different frequency when you strike a match and light it up, light that fire every day, twice a day. But with this way, if you put it all in your mouth all at once, it's still just 1 fire. So that's a good way to remember it. All righty. Yep, severe poison ivy for a sister. She's been deathly ill with it. Oh yeah, it can cause very, very severe illness. Absolutely. Yep. Now, in my course called Allergic, I teach how to uproot allergies, because essentially this is an allergy if you get this. So you might want to look back at that. I also talk about that if you're interested. If someone's very allergic, you might want to check that out too, see how it goes. And how much information you need to have for this particular person. Additionally, I've talked about allergic states a little bit on my blog, so you might want to check that out too. Okay. Aren't the shells of the cashew nuts poisonous? I believe they are. Yep. Yeah, and what if someone's allergic to nuts? Well, listen to what we've talked about tonight and think about it a little bit. It's a good question, but when you understand homeopathy, we're saying someone who's allergic to poison ivy can take homeopathic poison ivy. Someone who's allergic to nuts can take homeopathic nuts. In fact, that's exactly how it works. Isn't that gorgeous? It's exactly how it acts. Let's see.
Look at Nancy Ross.
I'm looking for I don't see. Oh, here we go. Can a water dose be made with a remedy to spray it on? I have had people use that, but to be honest, I mean, that might be useful. The ability of this medicine, when it hits the mucosa of the mouth, when it gets in between the gums and the lip, when it goes under the tongue, when it gets into the back and into the mouth, is so powerful that you could do that. But I don't know. I've always done it that way. I have had people report to me that they've used a spray. I think one of my sons did that once, but give it a try. That's not the method that I've grown to use. Can anacotin be taken if someone has? Okay, we got that answered. All righty. That's what I love about homeopathy too, Jamie. That's what's so great about it. Any help for headaches caused by weather changes? We're not talking about that today, so I'm afraid we can't go into that. But if you search my blog, it's on there. You may have to come up with a synonym. Or you just write the words Joette Calabrese, sinus headaches. Because that's what it is, sinus headache. And then you look to see whether or not that's included. And I believe I have something on the blog on that. All righty. Do we have any other questions here? Okay, if someone has, okay, there's that nut allergy again. Aren't the shells? Okay, we got that. I hope you've got the name of the book. I think you put that in there, right, Perry? Okay. She's here? Hi, Cheyenne. Hi, sweetie. Hi, Cheyenne. I wish I could see everyone. I wish I could see you. All righty. I think we've done it. Hi, Diane. Nice to see you too. Diane from Orchard Park, the ultimate real estate agent. All righty. Good book. Use your materia medica. This is anacardium in there. You can get the anacardium on boron. Remember, if you go to boron and you put in my name, Joette, not my last name, just Joette, and you get a discount. And again, I'm always going to tell you I don't get kickbacks on that. The whole idea is when I say this is free, I mean this is free. So keep up the good works, folks. For those of you who are not in study groups, think about it. You'll learn an enormous amount because you're not only working with your sufferings and your children's, but also learning about other people's sufferings. And then it comes faster and better. Very, very good. All righty, folks. I think we're done. It's a good night. So, anacardium, rhus tox, graphites, sulfur, another book to look at, and you're all set. Love you all. God bless. Bye, everyone. See you next week.